Hello everyone, welcome to zednewsblog-podcast. For those who are not familiar, this podcast is a commentary on select news items as seen from a biblical worldview, with the goal of suggesting life-changing lessons that may be derived from it. Thank you for spending time with us today. My name is Ramon Jun Baru Zerudo, your commentator. I would appreciate it tremendously if you would tap the like, subscribe, and share buttons. The title of this episode, number 10 in our series, is Deceptions of Epic Proportions, otherwise called Putin's Ploy, Hillary's Hoax, and Gavin's Game. Even at a cursory look, one cannot help but observe that Russia's Vladimir Putin has been playing games with his intentions regarding his war with Ukraine, or conclude that Hillary Clinton's direct involvement in the alleged Russia collusion hoax was intended to serve her interest, or that California's Governor Gavin Newsom's role in the deliberate deception about the publicly raised $100 million Palisades Fire Aid Fund was non-existent. To react with disgust to the hard-to-deny suspected deception in all three matters is putting it mildly. Frankly speaking, it is more like revolting. Let us start with Putin's ploy. To begin with, the situation with Russia is getting more complicated by the day, one that could potentially lead to a direct military confrontation between the United States and Russia, as alluded to in the previous episode. When President Donald J. Trump realized on July 16 that Putin had been breaking his promise about making peace with President Zelensky by attacking civilian targets the night after each good talk with the Russian strongman, Trump immediately authorized the sale of military equipment to the European Union for use by Ukraine in its fight with Russia, and gave Putin 50 days to come to the peace table or suffer severe economic sanctions, both to Russia and to those that would collude with it by buying its oil, such as China and India. Sad to say, that scenario has quickly deteriorated when Trump shortened the ultimatum last July 28 to 10 or 12 days, to which announcement Russia's deputy chairman of its Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, warned about a possible nuclear war with the United States. In response, Trump ordered on Friday, August the 1st, the repositioning of two U.S. nuclear submarines to what he called appropriate regions, following what Trump called highly provocative statements. Just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that, quote unquote, Trump said on Truth Social. Everybody is holding their breath and waiting for what happens next. Now to Hillary's hoax. Meanwhile, in the same news cycle, another bombshell news development has gotten all eyes fixated on Hillary Clinton. The declassification by Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Senator Chuck Grassley of documents that, according to some observers, offer startling revelations about the Hillary Clinton campaign's alleged secret plan in 2016 to tie Trump to Russia through FBI and media to spread a false claim that Donald Trump was a Russian asset. After all that transpired and all that did not, to Trump and other people in his orbit before, during, and after Trump's first term in office, the public is finally seeing how officials and reporters set into motion what may be the greatest hoax ever perpetrated in American politics, observed Jonathan Turley, a Shapiro professor of public interest law at George Washington University. On to Gavin's game. In front In another front, also in July, the 25th to be exact, U.S. House Representative Kevin Kiley, a Republican from California, called for federal investigation into the reasons why the $100 million raised during the fire aid benefit concerts held in January 2025 has not gone to the Palisades and Altadena fire victims as promised, but rather to nonprofits who then get to decide where the money goes. The fundraising project was set up and sponsored by Annenberg Foundation with the expressed intention of giving all the money to the fire victims. The concert featured the likes of Rod Stewart, Lady Gaga, Sting, Stevie Wonder, Nirvana, etc. However, months after the event, it's been reported that the victims never saw a penny. Instead, a lot went to recipients, many of whom had nothing to do with fire relief. What many found even more disconcerting was an admission by fire aid spokesman Chris Wallace that direct payments to individual victims was not happening and that it was never planned in the first place. Now, while Governor Newsom is not directly linked and nor associated in any way to the fundraising project, being the top executive of California, he is the de facto head of relief and recovery efforts in major calamities and is therefore familiar or should be familiar with the people and entities involved in this effort. It is safe, therefore, to assume that he also is aware of what has been going on and must be acutely aware of the problems such as what has been revealed by investigations. To wit, 1. Lack of transparency. There has been no detailed breakdown of how the money has been distributed. 2. Minimal community benefit. Most affected neighborhoods have not received direct assistance. And 3. Vague or misleading reporting. The fire aid website lists 100 plus grant recipients, but only 3 organizations are in the Pacific Palisades or Altadena, where many homes were lost. To recap, based on Putin's record in history, it is clear he has no intention of giving up his obsession over Ukraine, and for reasons known only to himself, that has been his ploy from the very beginning. That said, the future in this regard is very iffy. We can only hope Putin will somehow succeed. As far as the Clinton-Russiagate issue is concerned, the Senate's investigation is aggressively proceeding as evidence continues to mount. One thing is certain, there is no stopping now the accountability and prosecution effort on the part of the GOP Senate and Trump's Department of Justice. On the fire aid scandal front, it is now a wait and see as the probe is still in its beginning. In conclusion, overall, one can easily argue that none of the preceding are hapstance or none happened by chance. They were all deliberately conceived, planned, and executed, which is no different from all that happens in the world and in the individual lives of people. God is sovereign, and as such, nothing happens without God's approbation. In other words, He either allows or not allow every event to happen in fulfillment of His divine will and purposes. But every decision made by man is man's alone, whether consistent with God's will or not. Like sinning, for instance, to a child of God, that is to say, one who is spiritually born again as per John 3:3, he can say either yes or no to sin. There is a way not to fall into temptation, and there is a way out of every temptation. According to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability, but with the temptation he will also provide the way of escape, that you may be able to endure it. Obviously, that is applicable only to God's children. Now, you might find this surprising, but truth be told, although people are God's creation, not all are children of God. It says so in John 1:12. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Also in 1 John chapter 3, verse 10, it says, "By this it is evident who are the children of God, and who are the children of the devil. Whoever does not practice righteousness is not of God, nor is the one who does not love his brother." So, when a child of God sins or violates the will of God, he either is weak in his faith or he knowingly wanted to sin. However, to someone who has not been saved by grace and therefore not yet born into the family of God, he is still held captive by Satan, and sinning, whether consciously or not, is, pardon me for saying so, quite normal. All told then, or as the popular saying goes, at the end of the day, Putin's ploy, Hillary's hoax, and Gavin's game, anyone one treats or looks at each story, while intriguing, interesting, and challenging fodder for speculation among political pundits, military strategists, economic geniuses, and assorted religionists, the world will continue to turn. Events will happen, and God's will be done according to his plans and purposes, to his glory and to his glory alone. Thank you for watching, and God bless.